Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
This week I want to talk about, I want to start out talking about Lisa Raymond. And I didn't know Lisa was going to be here, but I was planning on talking about her anyway. Lisa, if you don't know her, reach out to her, connect with her. I just think she is really sharp with respect to what I'll call functional technologies. Maybe that's not really a word, but let me just kind of explain some of the different things that she's helped me with, and why I think that she's very, very knowledgeable, certainly in the areas of social media and kind of how it all fits together, if you will. And I think that's important. But she's helped me with Zoom. Well, let me start out. She's helped me with this. She's helped me with this live and getting this live going. Maybe not actually launching it, but once I was launched, she did a great job of just kind of coaching me along and saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And it's been valuable information that's really helped me do a better job with this. She's helped me with Zoom. She pointed out on how I can gather statistics on the back end of Zoom. I do a monthly call, the Networking Hub, and I would spend a couple hours going through and just doing a very manual process of pulling people's information. And she showed me where I could just find the information and just do a download. I mean, it took what was at least an hour exercise every month after every Networking Hub. It only happens once a month to just a few minutes. Just amazing. And it's, not that other people don't have the information, but she stepped forward and she shared it with me. And I've been doing a lot more on Eventbrite, and she's kind of coached me along with respect to that. I think she is very, very competent with respect to those with social media and those sorts of functional technologies. And I know she's on here on the LinkedIn Live. I don't mean to embarrass her, but if you ought to reach out, you ought to talk to her. She's helped me in business. I think she can certainly help you in business. At any rate, that kind of leads into today. Today, we're going to talk about gossip, and no one likes a gossip, right? Or they might, I didn't know Lisa was going to be on the live, but I'm gossiping about her. I'm gossiping about her in a very, very positive way. And I stumbled across upon this from Bob Burg. If people are not familiar, Bob Burg has written a couple of books. He's written a book called The Go-Giver. It's a little story about a powerful business idea. Over 1 million copies have been sold, I assume, at this point. Last I checked a few months ago, it was 900-some thousand. And he's coming out with another book with Jeff West called Streetwise to Saleswise. And I'm actually interviewing Jeff West here soon on that particular book. And again, here I am. I'm gossiping in a positive way. Bob was my 100th guest on this episode, or my 100th episode. He was on my 100th episode, and really helped me kind of change the trajectory of the podcast, if you will, because he introduced me to lots of great other guests. I wouldn't have met Jeff West for him. Bob Burg in The Go-Giver talks about, giving. It's all about giving. See, I got all of my little notes in there. And Bob walks his talk. I mean, I know a lot of people who are networker types, and they don't, it's I'm not going to mention names. It's about them, and that's fine if it's about them. Bob tells you, hey, this is what you should do, and that's the life that Bob lives. And so Bob is somebody that I follow, and I'm as high on Bob Burg as I am on Lisa Raymond. But Bob puts out it's a daily impact email. And if you get a chance, you should subscribe to it. Insightful. And I generally read every one. I'll respond to Bob from time to time if I have something useful to say. I don't need to be filling up his inbox. But there was one that came out a few weeks ago that I was really, really kind of struck me. And he calls it playing the reverse gossip game. And what the reverse gossip game is basically saying something kind, encouraging, edifying, or complimentary behind someone's back. Again, didn't know Lisa was here, and he calls it the game, and that's the only rule. Is you just say something nice about people. Now we all got if you say, hey, somebody's gossiping, it generally uh, has a bad connotation to it. Somebody's making up lies or just spreading half truths, or maybe they are truths, but things that nobody needs to hear. But with the reverse gossip game, again, everybody wins. You can share, how impressed you are with a coworker or somebody that you're working with. Um, you can. I mean, I think there's lots of different. You stop and just think about the people in your life. And I know everybody has people in their life. Well, I'll speak for myself. I have people in my life, and they drive me crazy. Right? I've got 3 great kids. They drive me crazy from time to time. Um, but I could also turn the table and say a lot of really neat things about them. I think that's true of everybody in our lives. And we tend to get kind of caught up in this, okay, oh, woe is me, this is what's happening, but if we just kind of flip the script and just say, okay, you know what? Yeah, they can drive us crazy, but you know what? But my kids make me laugh, and they'll just, they help me in ways like Lisa Raymond helps me. My oldest son is in technology, and I'm just totally floored by the types of things that he can show me. Geez, if I just need to open my eyes. But if we're open to playing this reverse gossip game, it may well make it back to that person. And hey, Frank was talking about you, and he was just going on and on, and you know, I need to meet you, or I just wanted you to know. Um, but the other thing is, I got to thinking about Bob Berg's post about his whole notion of the reverse gossip game, is maybe it never makes it back to the person, right? And again, I didn't know that Lisa Raymond would be listening to this live broadcast. And I still was planning on saying it, and I believe every word that I've said about it. Um, but even if it doesn't, that's not necessarily the intent. Like, geez, I hope it gets back to her, because then she'll like me more, or whatever. I think in my mind that's just too calculating. But I think the best thing that the reverse gossip game does for us is that it sends a message to the people we're talking to, that we are prone to talking about these things that are kind, that are encouraging, that are edifying, that are compliment. It's hard to get out. Complimentary. Talking too fast today. And so if we're sharing about others, what it tends to do is put people on notices that that's how we conduct ourselves. Um, and I think we're all guilty of gossiping, and I try to do less of it. I just kind of bite my tongue, or a lot of it's email. Just bite my tongue. Just don't write that next sentence, or if I do write it, delete it before I hit send. Just realizing that how I show up in the world, and if I show up and I'm the gossiper, then people are going to realize, okay, he's the gossiper. What's he saying behind my back? Um, and if you're playing the reverse gossip game, then how you're showing up in the world is a whole different is a whole is a whole different animal, right? You're a whole different person, and people are, geez, I'm going to serve this person because they're going to say nice things about me. And I think it puts us in it likely does put us in a much better position. Um, and as Bob talks about here, is the reverse gossip game is a game where everyone's a winner. So I want to wrap this up. I want to wrap this up just with a thank you, Lisa, for all your help. I'll certainly throw that out there, because I know you're listening, unless you totally jumped off. And maybe you'll listen to the podcast episode as well. And if you're listening to this on the podcast and you want to meet Lisa, reach out to me. I will introduce you to Lisa. She's a good person to know. But what Bob encourages us to do, and I'll close with this exercise, is to look for a chance to play the reverse gossip game. Look for an opportunity where you can just talk somebody up behind their back, and just try and do that. Try and do it once a week, and then once you get good at that, maybe try and do it once a day, a couple times a week, and just get better at talking up people. Again, it's easy to find the things that drive you crazy about people. It's a whole lot more difficult, but a whole lot more rewarding if you're willing to play the reverse gossip game.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.